Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Haley Mitchell-Haugen. I am the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And tonight we are here to celebrate the publication of Ohio poet Aimee Noel's uh, debut collection called SLAG, with this beautiful, amazing cover that's just catching everybody's eye. Very excited to have Aimee reading tonight from this collection. And we have a selection of contributors to Sheila-Na-Gig's Winter 2025 issue as well. We have an amazing all-star lineup tonight. Very excited. I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Aimee's book here. First, I want to congratulate Aimee because this book has, to date, our largest pre-sale. So we've had lots of people waiting anxiously for this book to come out. Nearly 100 copies sold in our pre-sale period alone. So, and they're still going out the door. So that's a lot of fun. And congratulations, Aimee, on that. You've got some good friends and good readers out there supporting you, which is great. I'm going to read a little bit, just a little description of the book, because I think it's so wonderful on the back of the book. Slag as in waste product. Slag as in misogynistic invective. Both uses are laid at the speaker's feet in Aimee Noel's first poetry collection. From bodies of workers broken to bodies of those attacked, bodies of water abused. Noel holds the beauty and danger of the moment in balance, incorporating research, interviews, memories, and myth. Slag forges a world of those who persist, even thrive through their environment. Both internal and external may not, even though external and internal may not have their best interests at heart. That's what we're going to be getting into just a moment here. And just a little bit about Aimee. Aimee Noel has twice been awarded the Ohio Arts Council Individual Excellent Award for Poetry and was an Ohio Arts Council Fellow at the Fine Arts Works Center. Her poems are published in journals such as Ecotone, Witness, Michigan Quarterly Review, and elsewhere. Transplanted from the shores of Lake Erie, she now lives with her wife in Dayton, Ohio. So excited to have you here, Aimee, and to hear about your process for this wonderful collection and to hear you read the poem. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I have so much gratitude for all of you attending. I know this is a particularly busy time, so I really appreciate you taking the time to be with all of us. And I'm so looking forward to hearing some of the other writers tonight. So, and thank you, Haley. You are a meticulous editor, and you've been so patient with my first, the going through the process. So you've been incredibly patient as I've gone through this for the first time for the debut book. I also would like to thank the graphic design team of Kaiser Dicken, who made this gorgeous cover. They came out of retirement to put this together, and the vision that they came up with. And this actually, the bottom photo is the lake where I grew up. So this is just down the road from where I grew up. So that's the actual beach. When I talk about the water, that's where I'm talking about, that actual photo. So in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to take you through the structure of the book so that when you're sitting with it, hopefully taking a deeper dive, you get a sense of how the book is put together. And then I'll read just a couple from each section is kind of how I'll do our time together. So thank you for being here. The structure of the book is it's in 4 parts. And in the first section, it's more of a younger narrator, a younger perspective. So a lot of the poems in the beginning have that kind of processing from naive voice to knowledge and how that knowledge is gained. So I'm going to start with the opening of section 1, on page 15. This is so fun. Mandy was mentioning this at her launch. If you have the book, you can follow along on page 15. So we'll start with that. The Child and the Quicksilver. When the streetlight breaks, I coax its mercury into a Dixie cup to paint myself silver. Nightly, I sluice quicksilver from palm to palm, watching my lifeline drown under its weight. Every time I pour the liquid mirror back into the cup, there is less of me reflected. When only a bead remains, I swirl it around the bottom as if quickening minutes on the clock, then pull it into my navel to prove I am metal-fed. Listen, I say. I can float steel on my surface. Look at my coat of shine. For the second poem, I'm going to read Bless the Water on page 23. And this is kind of the narrator getting more of a sense of, the environment and the change in the perspective of what the environment meant as a kid and what it means now. Bless the water. Bless the water so abundant in my youth, absent of mercury or algae blooms or zebra mussels' future invasion. Bless my ignorance of the same. Bless the ways in which this lake absorbed a community's abuse. Bless my ignorance of the same. Bless the frothy-fingered waves that welcomed me at my worst. Bless the sand that scrubbed this city's rust from my skin until I was new enough to move through a different space, far from my waterborne days. Bless the luxury of walking on thin ice with abandon, the belief that its crazed surface would always hold me like a martyr or a mother. And bless my ignorance of the same. And the last one on page 25, the last one I'll read from the first section is called SLAG. And I thank Haley for reading the back. It gives you a sense of what SLAG is. And the top cover is a cauldron of the process, the steel making process. SLAG is the byproduct that was poured into the lake. Before they knew they shouldn't do that. SLAG 1. Imagine giant cauldrons slung along the shoreline on rails, rocking on swivels as a train stops. The vats tipped like teacups, and the molten slag slides down the bank. Rivers alongside eddy and cool to red, while an orange stream tracks its own thermal path straight to the lake. Great explosions plume rust-colored smoke as waste and water exchange energy and boil everything in its wake. The byproduct sinks, becomes blue, cracks itself like glass, tumbles over sand until edges disappear. It emerges a gem, a smooth memory a child finds along a shore and rubs absently with a thumb, an industrial fairy tale. 2. Blue to draw your eye from the horizon. Blue you swear was a turquoise. Blue like this lake never was. Blue like the sky cracked open. Blue like eyes you can't stop listening to. Blue like the Monet at a gallery you've yet to see that will make you weep and walk out of this town. Thank you. Section 2 is historical poems. These are points of view from the steel workers themselves, and it's actually the section I started with. I found out that my great-grandmother had worked at the steel mill during the wartime, World War II, and that's where I started with research, and I read a lot of interviews, a lot of governmental documents. So section 2 is more historical, from points of view of a lot of points of view of the the workers themselves. And so I'll just read the one on page 34. This was from an interview I was reading. Robert Robinson, he worked at the Bethlehem Steel from 1951 to 1996. And this comes from his interview. It's called Moving Up Day. And then I'll go right into rebuttal on the second page. It's in italics because those are the direct words from Deacon Allen. Moving Up Day. Every year for 30 years, hands up, and they shot him through in 2 dimensions, same as he walked the floor, faceless and flat. Except this year, the company doctor says, pointing to a shadow on the picture film, he says, TB. And the foreman hands Bobby a broom. Black man's promotion, TB. So they moved him from furnace to production, and he waits for the cough to come. He drums up dust plumes and 2 feet pass and pushes that flurry to the end of the planks. He scrapes scale and pushes dust and waits to see his lungs pulpy and bloody in a tissued hand. 19 pills, 10-hour shifts, 2 feet pass daily. And the dust, it don't move, but falls through the planks, coating electricians and other rats like a cake waiting to be lit. TB is trumped by a plate full of perch and a bone that sticks in his throat. Hospital doctor says his pain ain't a disease, ain't being stooped over a broom, but a tumor in his back, about 3 pounds now, and would he like to be rid of it? Rebuttal, after Deacon Ollie Allen. They didn't have TB. It was the lung eaten up with steel particles. So that section is, like I said, it's subjective, it's the research, and it is more about the workers and their kind of their experiences. And the third section goes broader. It's more world events, a different point of view. So I'll read a few. Section 3 is a little bit heavier as it gets into more current events and current world events. So I'll read on page 60. Returning to work. Returning to work in Tip City, Ohio after the Women's March. He tells me about his weekend and how the wrestling arena was packed. Some had signs. The usual, he says. We the people. John Cena is still a tool. My wife thinks I'm at Bible study. That one was funny, he says. There was music, of course. Not live, but loud music, and everyone pumping their fists in the air like it's a rock concert. The music really telling the crowd what to feel. You know who's coming to the ring as soon as the first note hits. It's easy to tell who the villain is. Jericho choked Samoa Joe with an electric cable and wrapped his body with barbed wire and hit him with a chair to the chest, and his hands were tied behind his back, and he couldn't protect himself at all, and he slipped in his blood when he tried to stand, and you couldn't help but feel part of something huge. When you're surrounded by thousands all chanting, yes, 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 and you want the finisher, the one that really puts the wrestler out of his misery, but you don't want it to end. Finishing moves are way more tame now anyway. Chair shots to the head are illegal now. So are curb stomps. You can't just crush a man's skull with your boot anymore. Oh, no, don't worry. It's not real blood. It's all in good fun. And the promoters already know who's going to win. Okay. And then just, thank you. Thank you. And just because I feel like I have to read on page 62, there's a lot of tragedy and unfortunately a lot of communities having to go through with the aftermath of shootings. I'm going to read, because I feel like it's my duty to read on page 62 an account of the aftermath of a shooting here in Dayton. And it's called All Together Now. And this was a shooting in the historic entertainment district of city. All together now. The street scrubbers from last night are among the crowd, their hands still vibrating with the feel of bristles on brick. Water pools at the downslope of granite curbs, though Dayton has not seen rain in 10 days. The media tents camped on the sidewalk force you into the crush of people facing the vigil's stage. You move upstream. Sometimes your shoulders are pulled by the current opposing you. Because in America you have the luxury of returning to the closed street where 9 people were killed so early that morning you say last night. Because you still have the luxury of defiance, the belief about lightning strikes and all that, you're compelled to join hundreds to shout at cardboard leaders from the capital city who will cross the stage like two-dimensional ducks. You will aim your grief at them like scripted. Because the only thing different about your city's trauma is the antique bricks you stand on. Wax from vigil candles will seal their names into stone. Candles doled out from grocery bags, candles already half spent from the tornadoes or the KKK protests, or maybe this tragedy was so hot the candles burned themselves in anticipation of politicians invoking God, which is to say it's out of their hands, and the release of doves. Because this is America and we are nothing if not symbolic. But before the singing of Cohen's Alleluia, which is about violence and sex after all, and how fitting America, you will drape yourself over a stranger, because in passing him you recognize your own ashes. And if you have woven your bodies just right, both of his arms under yours, you will let your knees soften. If he pulls you closer, if you trust his ability to hold your grief, if your cheeks meet the soft part of his chest, you will cry, open-mouthed, stopping the flow of the crowd. I still have a hard time reading that one. Still have a hard time reading that. Thank you for indulging me in that. So yeah, section 3 is a little heavier. It's has a lot to do with, what the world is handling, and how you love a world, its dangers and its poisons, and how you still love it and hold both of those things in your hands. And the last section returns to that opening narrator, grown and grappling with the convergence of those known things, of knowing what they've grown up through, and also the difficulties that face them, and even the perspective of the shifting perspective of what that past looks like now that they know more about it. So I will read 2 more on page 76. Going home again. There is a white-collar cost to remaining true blue. Outsider status comes with a degree. You can go home again, but there's an overly polite emphasis on plans to accommodate. And I know I haven't forgotten how to drive in the snow, but I'm offered the 4x4 like a guest. And my vinaigrette's fancy, which is to say snobby, and a bit salty, which is to say salty. Not surprising, because I am Lot's wife, nameless, and a warning for those who think they are better. If you're willing to leave others behind to burn, you don't deserve a return engagement. And I'll finish with my extreme gratitude and the last poem of the collection on page 80. Inverted Water. Each summer, the water flipped itself, a great lake turning skyward, warming its underbelly. Frigidity found us not when we least expected it, but when we had forgotten to expect it at all. Temperature testing toe dips dispensed with, we dashed toward the deep, lured by warmth we believed would last our entire lives. We ignored the bite below our treading feet, though cold truth had passed through childhood lore. No science but our skin to know the world had gone upside down. Somewhere along the way, college perhaps, when learning occurs at the expense of all else, I looked up this unlikely magic. It's true, seasonal lake stratification. But who doesn't prefer the fairy tale over an expert explained inversion, wanting to hold the spell of not knowing just a bit longer? Now, states away from the lake, which spent decades heaving its dead at my feet, I choose to believe the world can magically right itself, can bring the warmth back to the surface where it belongs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aimee. So wonderful to hear you. In the chat, I'm seeing words like lovely, heartbreaking, powerful, breathtaking, and all of that is in Aimee Noel's debut collection, SLAG, which we are finally celebrating here tonight at Sheila-Na-Gig. So great to hear these poems and hear you talk about process and how the book came together. Really, really wonderful, Aimee. Thank you. All right, so we are moving now into more of an all-star lineup, but a continuing all-star lineup with contributors to Sheila-Na-Gig's winter issue. And we're going to start with the California Desert with Michael Dwayne Smith. So Michael, why don't you get us going there?
Thank you, Haley. And Aimee, thank you so much for your lovely reading of some very powerful poetry. Really, really enjoyed it. Can't wait to read the book. And Haley, thank you, as always, for hosting these wonderful things. And I'm happy to be a member of the club. Had a book that Haley released just a couple of months ago. So I'm going to start with a poem that is in the most recent edition of Sheila-Na-Gig. And excuse me, this one's entitled, I Start Watching La Dolce Vita Again. Out of ideas in the theater's 10th row center, air conditioning laced with popcorn and tears, I see a helicopter's blades stir the panorama, tilting to St. Peter's Square. Double XL Jesus dangles on cords beneath, face forward, arms aloft, and the chopper's full of reporters. So I'm thinking, which is sacreder, sky or earth? Since what's left must be profanity. Outside the movie house, my sun has been setting for 6 days. In here, it's Rome, 1960, and these Italian press hacks want telephone numbers from a bounty of bikinied sex bomb sunbathers around the pool. But this is one time being in a racket won't pay off, fellas. Then it hits. What's obscene is camera-wielding lechers floating like a crown over Christ's head. What's then profound is the grounded glitterati shouting into troubled air, why are you airlifting Jesus? Where are you taking him? Like they'll miss him. They need him, though it's the first time they've met. By film's fiend, I'm hip to the holy trope trinity. In the dark, I am beautiful. No life is ever truly resolved. Whoever falls in love first loses. On the drive home, I hope you're in that black dress. This heart ain't gonna break itself. All right, and then the second one I'm going to read here is a new poem, and is entitled Note Passed from a Citizen to the Outside World. This much is true. We are not well. I saw lavender blue out my window, heard the mail truck putting away, end of a working day. warm thoughts like marigolds. As the hours softened to doze, the neighborhood lit up like peacocks in a Diane Seuss poem, each line squared to the whole as if pressed for time, like a letter to a self already silenced. There's a yearning for an open mouth, the silkweed in it, tender dandelion without hope, but the determination of a good bird dog. Everything breathing and breathless. What have we done? Porch lights glow yellow, glow through my burlap curtain. I fall asleep in my lyrical straw chair, the yearning never slack, hand-bound chapbooks of my life trilling like baby birds on the tongue. And this is nothing like a horizon, no dividing line. Our mouths, beaks, hands, wings intersect redemption, absolution, delusion, martyrdom. I will balm my thoughts when lain upon our mattress in the inky night, and will play the unrepentant possum. No crying while dark red years descend as locusts, coagulating clouds into ravenous shrouds. Last bloom, inner rooms, green world fire, help us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm next. I will read the poem that is in, oh, I forgot to say, Amy, that was wonderful. I loved your whole, I love the cover and everything, and I love how many people have pre-ordered. That's so exciting. Anyway, my poem, I'll read the first one that is in the current issue of Sheila-Na-Gig Online. And today, a political assassination, another school shooting, and a purple petal. Never have I coaxed an orchid to bloom until our plant grew a long stem with 7 buds like green rosary beads, and there it sat for months. One morning, a petal. A week later, a few more until we had a full-fledged flower. The next 3 months, we were kids rushing into the kitchen to check our Christmas stockings, watching each bud bloom sequentially down the stem. A small thing, this word, and. The world is falling apart, and I can choose to enjoy an orchid's purple flowers. And then, because I'm still so excited about my book, read from my book, Wings. I found a 2-inch black and white square picture of a birdhouse high in a bare winter tree, stark against the tall snowy mountains. On the back, in Grandma's writing, the birdhouse through our kitchen window, Fairbanks. I remember her staring out windows, looking beyond the trees. She preferred hills to valleys, forest over sea. Was it birds she loved or the allure of wings? I inherited Grandma's Steinway and her music. I've been practicing, following her penciled marks, hold pedal, push forward on black keys, and asterisk next to crescendo. Today, swallowtail butterflies fluttered through Chopin's notes, and Grandma's stories filled the room. Rain showers in Guatemala, northern lights sweeping across an Alaskan sky, a flock of Steller's jays wheeling above a meadow of poppies and lupin. Thank you.
I'm so honored to be here with you, Amy. It's really an exceptional reading, and everyone else. So I'm going to read my poem from the winter issue, and then another poem. And this poem was written for the poet Jennifer Martelli, who passed recently. She was in the ekphrastic group that I run online, and it's called Levitation, and it's after Gertrude Abercrombie's artwork called Levitation, which is surreal. And it has a line from Jen's poem At the Garden Center, which will be published in the Italian American Writers Association 2026 issue. Excuse me, I have a throat issue today. Levitation. I thought of you when I found this painting. a woman suspended, not because I imagined their long, dark hair falling towards the table, top-hatted magician performing the act, pinned to his sides, his arms, marble to break your fall, break you. But because despite cells mutating for over a year, you never stopped to count the number of readings and journeys, meaning movement is never mute. The painting depicts no cat, yet I'm sure Maria crouches. Apparently I'm tired also. Maria crouches behind the table, guide to the underworld, or at least in cahoots with witches. I will not describe further the sparse rendition of two people and a table rooted, a wall, a floor. Such devotion to the art of magic. I prefer the fullness of pears or maples or rough shapes of paper or clothespins or small pots at the garden center or shoulder blades or scissors or even cigarettes. Yet those hinge your poems open, and that would move me too much. You blurred and smeared words like scrim, simultaneously bridged one landmass to another with a leap in the same line. Maybe you are not in the painting. Blue-gray brushstrokes meant for a canvas, not a room, and the floor ocean green, not translucent, embracing for when the waves rush in. The last time I asked how you were feeling, you said, I'm going for a walk. You didn't say you found a way to swap places with the magician, but I know you did. So I've been writing lately a series of poems, sort of two or based on the artwork of Maria Lai, who was a Sardinian artist, and she's a very interesting person. And so this poem takes place in a different island in Ireland, and this is Innismore, one of the Aran Islands, where I spent some time. It's called The Red Thread. Once I roamed an island, index finger traced an ancient maze of dwellings, cliff disintegrating. The stars held themselves, close to the bench where I sat in front of the house. The island skinny, my fingers fat from fish and potatoes. The host pushing more on the blue-rimmed plate. Maybe she was angry I'd stayed after most visitors left, hearth fire blazing. After dinner, she pierced cloth with thread, decoration for a pillow spurting daisies, like the ones between cracks in limestone that formed and ruled life there. The flat-bottomed boats were idle, and the clochen beehive huts repaired for tourists. I didn't know then if I was healing myself or the world in my journal. Either way, I'll tell you now. I tried to hold the sun by the hand, though my hair couldn't grow more blonde. I wanted to create something that never existed, cover the pain of losing my father with an island. I untied the red thread from my finger, wrote a letter to my first love, cut the arms off a dress, and placed them under a rock at the fort where circle enclosed circle. What more could I do? Braided my hair, questioned everything. Did my fingers grow sore because I refused children? On the final day, I ran along the rock path to Polna Beast, a natural occurring swimming pool where fish hide, waiting for surface bubbles. I scooped up and swallowed their eyes to replace my own. That night, the natives heard a jazzed cry. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brian O'Sullivan. I'm really honored to be here following Amy and all those wonderful poems before now. My first poem is from the winter edition of Sheila-Na-Gig, and it's Hints of Mortality in the Irish Catskills. I also have a epigraph for that. Trailing clouds of glory do we come, from Wordsworth's ode, Intimations of Immortality in Earliest Youth. It was always a place that had seen better days, in need of a coat of green, white, and gold. The second L in O'Neill House was already tilting away, far back as I can remember. But to us, it was a twilight field lit by fireflies, or a creek of minnows where we'd hoped to catch a trout, or was the smell of stale beer and sawdust at the Shamrock Inn, where we'd play that weird countertop bowling game and wave our fingers as horns from our foreheads while Pat Roper whirled his R's through the last unicorn. Or the dinner rolls served in the great room with individual pats of butter, my dad's definition of luxury. Or it was pings and flashes in the shack where we played pinball and later asteroids and Pac-Man, next to the vending machine where I could find a cream soda, which I'd never see or look for downstate. And as I remember that shack, the kids by ourselves, I remember teasing and boredom-fueled fighting, and really, we had already seen better days if we've ever seen them. I remember no youthful clouds of glory being trailed across these green fields. But then, I'd never seen East Durham's glory days, back when this annual 3-hour drive promised a dream vacation of Irish working-class New Yorkers before plane fares started to drop, opening loftier fields. As a kid, I barely noticed the photos of radiant grand dances in the 50s, when this was as good as it got. Now it was not. And we'd be dreaming of flying to Ireland or to wild Caribbean waves next year. But on a pilgrimage walk that the activities director led through the woods behind the softball field to a statue of Mary with chipped powder blue paint, I didn't know to pray for something someday that would somehow not be belated. Right. And the second one is called Re-Entry. It's a sonnet that appeared in on the Rattle magazine website in September as the prompt poem of the month. Re-Entry. One January midnight, when I was a moonlighting undergrad, I headed home from a phone bank in Floral Park, New York, where, languidly fighting boredom with coffee, I'd been asking respondents to rank their sample beers. Too bitter? Not bitter enough? Just right? The sky was starry for Queens. The air was brisk, and it was lightly snowing. No rush, I thought, unwinding. I'll take the long way there. I turned the dial and the radio played Major Tom, and the stars looked very different today. It hit me like a bomb. I sang along, and my silver zephyr started to sway around the snowy road, following the flow. A few hours later, the Challenger would explode. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Michael Shoffstall. I'm new to this reading. Amy, I loved your reading and grateful to be included with all the other readers here. The first poem I'm reading is called Myth of Hornbeam. He told them he wasn't suited for their sort of afterlife, mingling amorphously with all those other souls. Told them in his head, of course, silently in what passed for prayer. But they kept testing, preparing him. The vertigo, that was them, watching to see how he would handle the disorientation of disembodiment, the loss of perspective, of visual horizon. Now he feels his bones becoming lighter, hollowed out like a bird's, his fingers curling painfully into his palms like talons. He muses about the hollowness of angels' bones. For years, he had counted on the Beatitudes to save him. You know, the one about inheriting the earth. I could be meek, he insists, imagining how heavenly it would be to live out eternity as a tortoise, or maybe a tree. Yes, a hornbeam, ironwood, musclewood, silver blue roots gripping the soil, grounded, adorned in dreadlocks of pendulous catkins, content to consort with the druids, flirt with the dryads, and on a day without wind to be simply here, a single leaf wildly waving. And then this next one is the one from, it was in the winter edition of Sheila-Na-Gig. Rain crows. Theirs is a gentle haunting. They call across the hollow stillness, always in pairs, to tell us rain approaches. We hear two breathy notes. No, three, but legato, three more soft, staccato, then caesura, the long pause, expectant, finally the distant complementary response. The predictable weather follows, call and response. My father called them rain crows, a colloquialism or simply his name for them, something to say to children, a vestige maybe of our vaunted 164th Cherokee heritage. As children, we learned to cup our hands to our mouths, to blow through knuckled thumbs till we were blue from trying to duplicate that cooing sound. Years later, I learned it was the song of mourning doves that warned us of impending storms. I still see them often in pairs, perched on a sill or wire, watchful as parents. They mate for life, I've read, and beyond as well, I've come to believe. Today, I cup my hands again in prayer, not for rain, but for the familiar duet that's at once fateful prelude and faithful refrain. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. It's wonderful to follow you from this kind of echoes of the natural world to the two poems I'm going to read tonight that are both elegies of sorts. The first one that was published in this winter edition is called Heresy. I wrote it 8 years ago. I have been sending it out for 8 years, and I am so thankful to Sheila-Na-Gig for being the home that it's found. It's about my brother's death 8 years ago. Heresy. Do not tell me everything merges into the slivered aurora. I know one greased grip, finger slip, the party-colored circus goes awry. Every laugh flies apart, daughters, sisters, wife, the slam of the screen door. The house that loosely we expect to remain, we expect to remain. You are not the harrow blade rusting in the grass, not even this sag on the sofa where you lay for 8 months, the smell of laundered flannel. Sudden hail on the tin roof, your hand warming around the coffee mug. Your hand around the coffee mug warming. And this one is kind of, I had submitted 2 poems to this, but I have, of course, been simultaneously submitting. So this poem got picked up one day before Sheila-Na-Gig accepted it. So I figured it was okay to read it here with you all. And it's called I Get Glimmers. And this is about my mom, who died 10 years ago, luckily, a year and a half before her son died. I get glimmers wanting you alive again. I was only 72 when you died, too young to be curious about your inner life at 92. At 97, sorry, get that right. Oatmeal bread, fragrant from the oven, white formica table, your blue eyes. What did you see every morning, Mom, in the bathroom mirror? Changing into your swimsuit for laps at the community pool? Too afraid of the demands you put on me. 10 years older now, I have questions. Recall you preening over your shapely calves, clamping a curling iron on your wispy bangs. I've always thought I was prettier than you. Now, your wrinkled jowls, droopy eyelids emerge on my face. Aging vanity tendrils around my body like a morning glory gone wild. Will I be bored living another 20 years? You loved the scrappy finches, squirrels at your bird feeder, lurking cat. Was that enough to get you up in the morning? You never stopped tending, despite twinging fingers, a buckling knee, ruled by zucchini bulging too big to eat, Kentucky wonder beans dangling new every day. How I hated seeing the food caught between your teeth. I'm always checking mine now. Dutiful at your doorstep every Friday, dry kiss on the lips. You were my garden. Some days I wished you would shrivel and die. What if my visits glared like a highlighter? You can no longer change your sheets, program your TV, climb the stepladder. I only admitted the good daughter. We rarely touched. My body trusted Grandma's arms, damp of her sweat. She who held me as an infant, while you swung barrels into anti-aircraft guns. The hour drive from your house each week, I'd grind my teeth. Your firstborn recoiling, snuggling your mother instead. How hard that must have been. We almost understood at the end. Thank you.
All right, what a beautiful reading so far. It's just wonderful. Aimee, your book sounds fantastic. I've enjoyed everyone who has come before me. I cannot manage listening and chatting at the same time, so forgive me. You're all quite wonderful. I'm going to start with a poem that was in an earlier issue of Sheila-Na-Gig and then read the current one. And this one is called Grace, and it's after Ellen Rowland's No Small Thing. It's no small grace preparing the coffee pot, then stepping out in morning dark to stand beneath a palm and listen for osprey's high-pitched song, then return in rising sun to coffee, hot, to fill the waiting cup and drink. It's no small grace to brace oneself with simple pleasure before the day goes wrong. And by coincidence, I used the same word in the last line of the poem that's in the current issue of Sheila-Na-Gig. I think I have a theme here going. Not exactly happy with the theme, but it is where we are in this world. Thalassius Maximus. I hear but cannot see the terns who fly across the evening sky, through wings of cloud against day's deepest blue, and sun's last burst of bright. I hear angels singing, says my friend, and I cannot say she's wrong or right. Thank you.
I think I'm next. Wonderful readings, everyone. Aimee, that was great, and it's always nice to be next to Donna. So I'm going to start with the ekphrastic poem that was in Sheila-Na-Gig, this issue. And this was written in a workshop that I took with the poet Judith Sornberger. And I just wanted you to see this image, painting by Catherine Rice Cummings. And this is, I believe, her grandson. So the poem is called Gabe Builds a Birdhouse. And they come, cardinals and jays, robins and larks, drab sparrows flecked with anticipation to this boy-made world of wood, boards rough-hewn and slashed together, roof and walls joined at the nail, because his mind sparked his grin, that moved his hand, that grasped the hammer, that made a sanctuary with its yes, enter of a door, for each inquisitive acquaintance that perched daily on the ancient maple's thinnest twig, peered in his windows and saw him. Oh, hallelujah for yesterday's orchestrated trill that called to one small boy to wake and construct what they did not need, but gifted to him the soaring desire to create, the swooping joy to give. I wanted you to see that image, which I think is so wonderful. And then for the second poem, I'm going to read this short piece, kind of thinking about the horrors that happened this last week. And this was written on the anniversary of the Tree of Life synagogue massacre in Pittsburgh in 2018. And it's called Anniversary All Souls Day 2018. Even now, awash in the world's weeping, Joyce, Richard, Rose, they do not rise, but float, bloated reminders of hope, Jerry, Cecil, David, drowned, drowning, tense too often a matter of attention to soul or soulful of what we've lost. Bernice, Simon, Daniel, the memory and the chanting twin tightly to whatever belief we sing, whatever Melvin, Irving, bodies we cradle in the dark grave of corruptibility. O slain cousins of ancient faith, pray this day for us. Thank you.
Hello, I'm David Schast. Excuse me. My first time here. I'm so happy to be here and delighted to hear Aimee and all the other readers' poems. What a delightful thing to be able to experience. The first poem I'm going to read is in the latest edition of Sheila-Na-Gig Online. Excuse me. It's called Invisible Line. Trethewey wrote she was ruthless to remember salmon fishing with her father, so she could write an elegy of love and longing without saying either. I wish my daughter were jealous of Trethewey's words, the invisible line of the poet's father casting her ache across the river. The parolee at my door, hoping to sell magazines off my white guilt, unaware of my fatherly guilt, asked if I believed in second chances. If I did, I might not be jealous of Trethewey's father, of men with many children and granddaughters in the river with them. Second chances means hoping salmon slip the hook, windows never shatter, mail that mattered never fades or burns, that I am not unforgivable. Nothing now but to write how much my daughter mattered to me. I think by now her river must be thick with salmon, but her line always slips away from mine. And then the second one is called Catching Kilroy. And I think everyone on this call is old enough to know Kilroy is related to World War II, found everywhere, graffiti. Anyway, Catching Kilroy. Strenuous graffiti men aboard a fishing boat huff as they hoist a net, streaming water over the deck, bulging thousands of little ellipses packed into a squirming, tessellated mass. Wriggling, shimmering, shape-shifting, this multitude scraping against the netting knots hisses, still alive. Gill flaps, twinkling like desperate stars, heave and gasp beside every glaring eye, each flat gaze grasping at the heavens' thinness. By ones and twos, they flop out, then quicker, splashing like raindrops, their constellation shifting until suddenly the net breaks. Soon then, like my father and closest friends from school, I will be gone, slipped loose like the fishes, my pattern no longer swimming between neurons, nor caught in anyone's synaptic net. But for my poems, not a single silver-tailed Kilroy unspilt to say, I was here. Thank you.
I think I'm the last reader. So first, thanks to Haley and Barbara for putting together just a great issue. And Amy, your reading was fantastic, as is everyone. So my poem that appears in this issue is inspired by my neighbor, who has the most beautiful garden in the neighborhood. Every summer morning, while the world burns, my neighbor rises early to water her flowers. From my kitchen window, I see her unwind the hose and twist the spigot handle. Before she begins, she fills a blue water bowl for the feral cat, who will not allow her touch, but acquiesces to food she leaves. Then she sprays asters and Japanese anemones while greeting bumblebees, who already are hard at work. I notice that she takes special care to water gently around the lilac, where a fat toad burrows in soft, well-tilled soil. She does this while also avoiding the praying mantis, whose geometric face turns ominously toward her as she passes its regular perch. It takes my neighbor less time to water than I take to drink my coffee. Still, the time she spares is enough to save this small patch of color and life while flames lick the edges of the rest of the world. And then the next poem was inspired by a visit to my niece in Oregon. It's called Expectations. Is there fog in Ohio? The question startles me. I think, isn't there fog everywhere? But no, fog is never certain, nor are rain or snow. Only wind is truly dependable. It is everywhere, brisk, nimble, often cold, but sometimes in the desert or in August, hot. It scatters trash into streets or billows leaves into gutters. It snaps long hair into eyes and flicks off baseball caps. When it comes to weather, everything else is a maybe, a sometimes. Fog in Ohio? I don't like to speculate. Yes, but not always. Yes, but only in the morning when thistles of mist hug the ground, brooding, lingering.
The one thing to remember is that sunshine burns it away. Foggy mornings turn into blue sky days, sky so blue you could stitch it into a pair of pants. Sky so blue it raises expectations. Only then, after the fog, might we venture out to feed cracked corn to wild geese, watch the great blue heron as she fishes the pond with her long, sharp beak. Imagine cardinals nestled in brush like tiny, smoldering dragons. All of these things are possible, but again, not certain. No promises, more of a warning, a cautionary tale for children. Put on your boots. Where is your hat? Button your coat. Small reminders that mean, I love you. You matter. Don't go into the fog without a hand to hold. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam, and to all of our invited mic readers from our winter edition of Sheila-Na-Gig Online, curated by the fabulous Barbara Sable, another excellent edition. And Barbara's January is just around the corner, and we're going to be open for submissions again, January 1st through 31st. They just keep coming around, don't they? So thank you, everybody. And thank you to our featured reader, Aimee Noel. We are celebrating her debut collection, SLAG. So exciting to have you here, Aimee. You can find Aimee's book and our online volumes at SheilaNagigblog.com. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and all the friends who came out to support Aimee and our other readers tonight. Really appreciate your support. Thank you.